We're talking about the life of Rabbi Yosef Karo. We got to the story of the Semikha, of the attempt of Rabbi Yaakov Beirav to reintroduce the idea of ordaining rabbis, and an attempt to reestablish the Sanhedrin, or the Supreme Court in Eretz Israel. The Supreme Court has the authority to set the calendar, to ordain new rabbis, to create the judicial system, to not only implement the regular monetary punishment, but also what is called fines, dinei knasot, which there are biblical fines on certain actions that the rabbi said could only be instituted by the Sanhedrin in Eretz Israel. So Rabbi Yaakov Beirav, by trying to do that, he's basically trying to turn the wheel back and revive not only Jewish sovereignty but halachic sovereignty in Eretz Israel, which some people believed will bring sort of like beginning of the coming of Mashiach. That they believe this is a step towards the full redemption, and it is, again, we spoke about this before, about the context in time after the expulsion from Spain, moving into the Ottoman Empire in the Netherlands and so on. Now they feel this is the time that maybe we could finally become independent, autonomous, both politically and religiously. So the one person who took this upon himself was a very very charismatic man, very knowledgeable, charismatic man by the name of Rabbi Yaakov Beirav, who was born in Maqueda, not far from Toledo, in Spain, and then after the expulsion arrived in Fez, in Morocco. Almost like, see, all roads lead to Fez, right? From Fez, he moved to Tlemcen in Algeria, which was also a center for hundreds of years, even before the expulsion. From the expulsion, many scholars got there, Rabbi Shlomo ben Tzemach Duran and Maharam al-Ashkar, Rabbi Moshe al-Ashkar. It was a center of study, and so those two communities in North Africa, Fez and Tlemcen, already recognized Rabbi Yaakov Beirav as a leading scholar. He then went to Egypt and became a protege of the president of the community, Yitzhak Sholal, and eventually there was some dispute between him. He was charismatic, but also very opinionated. So the president deposed Rabbi Yaakov Beirav after being the head of the Beit Din, but then he regretted and he reappointed him. But the fact that he was willing to go head to head against the president, that was the president of the Egyptian community, brought for him a lot of contempt and disagreement from other rabbis. Among them was Rabbi Yaakov ben Haviv of Salonika, and his son Rabbi Levi ben Haviv was a very also a prodigy, who eventually went to Yerushalayim. And Rabbi Yaakov Beirav moved from Egypt to Yerushalayim and then moved to Tzefat. So after all these wanderings, we have the two rabbis posited in two places in Israel: Rabbi Yaakov Beirav in Tzefat, and Rabbi Levi ben Haviv, who was his opponent, in Yerushalayim. And Rabbi Yaakov Beirav initiates this move to renew the Semikha, ordaining of rabbis in Eretz Israel, and he sends a letter to Rabbi Levi ben Haviv in Yerushalayim, telling him that all the scholars of Tzefat decided to get together and ordain me, Rabbi Yaakov Beirav, as the first ordainee, and I ordained them in return, and now we want to ordain you, and with that we're going to renew the Semikha. Now, we were going to segue from the life of Rabbi Yosef Karo to study this whole issue, because it's extremely important, not only as a historical event that you have here the rabbis trying to take the lead, to take the initiative, and create a sovereign entity in Israel, which could be the rabbinical leadership, it also teaches us of what happens in future generations, whether rabbis would be courageous enough to get up and make resolutions and make changes, or that because of different reasons, they would be reluctant to do so. We also will see whether the mahloket, the dispute, is what we call l'shem shamayim, for the sake of God and honesty, or are there also personal things involved? So I'm not going to get into all the arguments, the halachic arguments, because they're very complicated, and it's all. A lot of them are based on the discussion of Maimonides in regards to how the process of ordaining works. How do you appoint the first judge, and how is that judge empowered to appoint other judges? And then there's also, apparently we'll see there's a contradiction between what Rabbi Moshe ben Maimonides wrote in his commentary on the Mishnah, which was written originally in Arabic, and between what he wrote in his compendium of Halakha, the Mishneh Torah, which he wrote much, much later. In any case, Rabbi Yaakov Berav gathered the scholars of Tzefat, 25 rabbis, and they were the majority of the Jewish population in Israel at the time lived in Tzefat, not in Yerushalayim. And the 25 scholars signed the letter in which they said, we are going to renew the Semikha. I'm going to refer to the word Semikha from now on. We're going to renew the Semikha, and the first one who gets the Semikha, who is ordained, is Rabbi Yaakov ben Haviv. Now, it seems like the first implications of what they could have done with Semikha had to do with, like I said, to renew the calendar, meaning that they will decide when the new month and the holidays are based on testimony collected from people who witnessed the new moon. Also that they could do dinei knasot, meaning impose on people fines according to biblical law. And also they could administer lashes to people who deserve the punishment of lashes. Now, that was an argument that was presented by Rabbi Yaakov ben Berav, saying that he's doing it to help people, because there are a lot of people who have sinned, and the only way that they could atone for their sin is through lashes. So and since there's no Beit Din which can administer those lashes, they are trapped in a legal limbo. So he's trying to help them because they really want that punishment. It's like, just give me almost like a little kid, who said he had a confrontation with his parents, and they don't deal with him anymore. And he says, just punish me, let us clear the record. So that's how people felt. But with all this, and we'll see there was a long correspondence. It's like have here 90 pages of correspondence between the two rabbis about this, which basically Rabbi Yaakov Berav sent one letter, Rabbi Levi ben Haviv sent another. Eventually, there were two from Rabbi Yaakov and three from Rabbi Levi, and they kept exchanging intellectual blows, and eventually it failed. The whole thing, there was no Semikha, there was no renewal of the Sanhedrin. But the main concern for people, what was the sin for which people really wanted to get lashes, that they wanted to be punished and clear the record, was the sin of conversion to another religion. Because that was done either by force or by their parents. Because we're talking about the people who came from Spain after the expulsion, but not only those who came immediately after the expulsion, but also those who became Maranos, became Anusim, and lived for a while as openly as Christians, but in hiding as Jews. And there were those who wouldn't even practice Judaism out of fear that they're going to be captured. And when they eventually were able to come to the Ottoman Empire or to the Netherlands or other places, they wanted to erase this blot from their history. They want to clear their sort of the criminal record. So they wanted punishment. They wanted malchut. It's true. I'm not saying that it's necessary. That was part of the argument between Rabbi Yaakov ben Rav and Rabbi Levi ben Haviv. Rabbi Yaakov ben Rav said, one cannot be cleared of that sin unless he gets lashes. Rabbi Levi ben Haviv said, since we don't have the bedin, the teshuvah, the repentance, and the fact that they did not do it deliberately clears them of sin. They don't need more than that. But there was another element here, and that could have been intentional, maybe not. But the fact is that the messenger who brought the letter from Tzefat to Yerushalayim, we know his name was Shlomo Hazan, was himself a Marano. He was baptized as a child, and he wanted to get lashes to get kapara shlema. So he comes to Rabbi Levi ben Haviv, and he says here, now the letter contains this. First, the story that the rabbis of Tzafat say, we are renewing the Semikha. Second, we are ordaining Rabbi Yaakov ben Rav as someone who has Semikha. Third, we ordain you, Rabbi Levi ben Haviv. We grant you this letter of Semikha. You also are going to be nismach. So, great honor. Now, the messenger says, since you are now a samuch, meaning you have Semikha, you can give me lashes to atone for my sin. Rabbi Levi ben Haviv was very offended by that. Why? Because he himself, in his childhood, had the same experience. He was converted by force, and all of his whole life he felt, the embarrassment and the shame and the guilt, and we'll see how he writes about this in his correspondence. So what happens now is when he receives the letter, he says to himself, even though it's not clearly written, but obviously this is how he felt, he said, you already have a rabbi who has Semikha in Tzefat, that's Rabbi Yaakov ben Rav. He should have given the lashes to the messengers. Why are you sending him to me and you ask me to give him lashes? It's to remind me of what I have done. So, and it seems that his understanding of the whole process was that Rabbi Yaakov ben Rav wants to tell him, even though we give you Semikha, you will never be number one. You always have to be subordinate of mine. And Rabbi Yaakov ben Rav would be the leader. So, scholars now, there are different opinions among historians about what happened there. One historian, very important, Jacob Katz, says that Rabbi Yaakov ben Rav was very excited and wanted to renew the Semikha without a solid halachic foundation. But when you read closely the whole correspondence, you see that a lot of the opposition that Rabbi Levi ben Haviv presented to Rabbi Yaakov ben Rav was based on personal conflict that he had with him. And it really was, you could say, the clash of two very strong personalities that could have happened exactly the opposite way. It could have happened that Rabbi Levi ben Haviv would be the first one to come with an idea, let's renew the Semikha, and Rabbi Yaakov ben Rav would say, no, I don't agree, I disagree. It just so happened that one of them came up with this idea, and the other one had to say no, because, and we'll see as we go through the correspondence. However, there's some historians say that if this would have happened, this is Heinrich Gretz, or Tzvi Gretz, he says this, says all the sufferings through which the Jews went in Italy and in Germany, and the persecution and inquisition against the Anusim in Spain and Portugal, and the desire that they had at that time for the renewal of sovereignty and for the coming of Mashiach, that was a very strong force that brought knowledgeable and wealthy Jews to Eretz Israel, and more could have been attracted with the money that those people would bring with them, and with the prowess, the intellectual prowess of the rabbis who were there. They could have built at the time almost a sovereign Jewish state, semi-autonomous. So would this have happened? We don't know. Some people say yes, some no. It's hard to believe that the Ottoman Empire would have accepted the existence of an autonomous Jewish community within its territories. Because eventually it always wanted to be in control, but even if it would not have happened to that extent, probably the great benefit for the Jewish people, if that would have happened, was that we would get out of this stalemate where for over the 1,000 years we weren't able to renovate or introduce anything new to halacha, because we're stuck with the decisions of the rabbinical courts of Mishnaic times from the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th century. So that was the move initiated by Rabbi Yaakov Berav that eventually failed. It's important for us to know the story, and we'll read through this kuntres called Semikha Zekenim that appears. It is part of the She'elot U'Tshuvot, the correspondence of Rabbi Levi ben Haviv. It's important because as part of this dispute on the Semikha, Rabbi Yaakov Berav went ahead and ordained 4 rabbis in Tzefat. So he wanted to prepare the ground for the next generation. And those 4, among them was Rabbi Yosef Karo, who is the main theme of our discussion. So Rabbi Yosef Karo got a Semikha from Rabbi Yaakov Berav, which was challenged by the other rabbi, Rabbi Levi ben Haviv. Interestingly enough, there were 3 other rabbis. One is Rabbi Moshe Trani, who was known as the Mabit, Moshe ben Yosef Trani, who, because of his father's dispute with Rabbi Yosef Karo, became an opponent of Rabbi Yosef Karo. So it becomes, you think, the government, politics, the same thing happens within the rabbinical world as well, and those things are challenged. There were 2 other rabbis, Rabbi Avraham Shalom, Rabbi Yisrael Koriel, but the famous ones that we know are Rabbi Yosef Karo and the Mabit. It's amazing how Rabbi Yosef Karo plowed through all this, consistently, and built. He understood that his long-lasting impact will not be by a certain ruling here or there, or being the Rosh Hashiva here or the Rosh Bet Din there, but rather by, like I said before, combining all the halacha and running in a way which is accessible to everyone, almost in a sense of a grassroots movement of making halacha accessible to all the people, but then all people would look at him as the sole authority, and eventually would that prevail. So the issue of the Semikha, this is really the main topic that we have to focus on, and to see what happened, what was the gist of the discussion between Rabbi Yaakov Berav and Rabbi Levi ben Haviv, and how the personal considerations also impacted that. And we have to take to heart also to think of, if today, in modern day halakha, the Orthodox world, non-Orthodox world, we have disputes about what should be the halakha and how to solve it, we have to try as much as possible to clean out, to purge all these personal interests, and really work for the interest of the public. Continue tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem.